Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
First, number two.
Number two.
That was it?
Oh, you didn't actually
That's
say
it.
that, though.
No. Oh dear.
All right. How do we handle that? Do we accept it as adjusted?
With correction.
With
correction,
amendments, yeah.
Okay. All those in favor to accept the minutes of April 6th with the correction?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Communication and public comments. Bonnie Anderson, creation of a bike ped committee.
Yeah,
All right.
do I stay here?
I
I
believe
haven't been
so.
to one of these meetings.
Sure.
My proposal is to create, if anyone, I have a few extra of these if anyone wants to look on, but to create an advisory committee to work on making improvements on roads and sidewalks for safety reasons mainly, and so the committee would have a minimum of 5 members, and basically they would go out and examine the roads and sidewalks and collect data on any improvements that need to be made, make note of safety issues, take photos, and then present to the select board any recommendations on these changes. And my thought is they would also recommend grants and recommend just any other groups to work with. So I think they would work with the Wyndham Regional Commission, V-Trans, and the Planning Commission, and then also work with other towns. So already I made the proposal to Rockingham in February, and they accepted the proposal. So they're in the process of putting together the committee. And what they want to do is they really want to work with other towns, neighboring towns like Westminster. And so if we, I probably will go to other towns and make the same proposal, but at least for Westminster, starting with Westminster, the 2 towns can work together. So as an example, Route 121, there's a lot of really unsafe spots, and it goes through both Rockingham and Westminster. So that's a perfect example of where the 2 towns could work together. And basically, it's staying ahead of the road work plans, and like V-Trans, they'll often plan some road improvements without taking into consideration the safety of bicyclists mostly, but on smaller roads, sidewalks too. So, and then there's town roads, and basically they would work with the appropriate groups to make those changes. So, and the idea is to not have the town spend more money, is to either redirect existing funds depending on the project, or there's a lot of grant money out there, especially now there's a lot of infrastructure money, and it's a lot of towns are doing it. And Brattleboro has I believe it's called the Active Transportation Committee, something like that. And so they're already working on these types of things. And you can it's for more local sidewalk issues. You can do pop-up projects where you maybe cordon off, say you were gonna, not saying that we would put a bike path through this town, but just as an example, we would maybe have cones or some kind of little dividers to make a pretend or a trial bike path, and then see how it goes, see how people use it, if it works, and then move forward with the project. So I don't know, I mean, I can't think of any examples right now in this town where you might do a pop-up project, but I just wanted to put that out there. So the other, so improving the safety, the other benefits would be hopefully increasing the number of bikers and people using the sidewalks, bring more people to town. You know, students, I know there's a history of an issue with crosswalks and sidewalks in this town, and I don't know actually if that's ever been brought up again, but that would be the kind of thing that this committee would address, and so work with the school. So just getting more people on bikes, getting more youth, students riding to school, commuters. So back to using 121 as an example, I know that there are people who commute, and even some kids who ride it, and it's not safe. And I ride between here and Bellows Falls quite a bit, and there's some spots, I don't know if anyone here has ridden, but there's spots where you actually have to, what I do to be safe is I actually stop, turn around, make sure no one's coming in a car, and then I zip around the corner, and then I do the same thing around the next bend. And so there's spots like that. That's a really tricky spot. I think you probably know where I'm talking about, in Westminster, just north of Westminster Station. And I don't know how that would ever be fixed without blowing up part of the bank there. But there's a lot of issues like that, and places that could be improved. And just looking for those. That's what this committee would do. So, and these kinds of improvements really improve the value of property even. Oh, another thing I wanted to say is there are a lot of trail initiatives going on around here. If anyone's not familiar, there's the Bald Hill Trail Group is working with a group called Saxons River Valley Trail Initiative, and they are trying to make a trail that begins in Bellows Falls and goes all the way to Saxons River, eventually beyond, and then at some point it'll connect with the Bald Hill Trail. There's trails new trails in Bellows Falls, mostly for bikers and walkers, both of these trails. And then there's a lot of trail work going on over in New Hampshire. And all of these can connect eventually. I mean, they do connect now, but they can connect safely eventually. And the more all of these things happen, the more people will be riding, and also it really is good for the economy of all the towns to have these to have just more, bringing more riders to town basically, and coming through. And so that's pretty much all I have to say, I think. Does anyone have any questions?
I guess my question would be, what do you need from the select board?
To create the committee. So the committee would be a town committee. That's the proposal, is for the town to have a committee. And I don't know, I know in Rockingham, it's the kind of thing that has to go before the select board, and the select board works on putting the committee together.
We've had committees come before us and asked to get sanctioned, but you're asking us to form a committee that is a little different because we didn't come up with a creation, you did.
Oh,
As
right,
one of the
right.
select persons, I don't have a problem if you went out, because I got 5 people, I want to create this and come back to the blessing or sanction of the select board. We've done that before. But to actually sit and say, okay, now we're going to form this, and it puts too much responsibility on us. We want the people to be the shareholders.
Right, okay. So I guess it operates a little bit differently than Rockingham because they definitely wanted to sort of take.
We're a unique town. We don't have 1 foot of sidewalk. That's what's unique. We don't have no, that's about the only place is right downtown high school.
And
So
it's not in the town plan that there should be anywhere?
no, it wasn't that, we thought the idea of the dirt bikes going out on the trails and all that they came for us, yes. We're not against any of that stuff. It's a matter of a committee coming in front of us saying, come up with ideas. And
Right,
if the idea is we think we can get grant money, then just come back in front of us.
yeah, yeah, okay.
That's a little different than we're gonna go out and we're gonna invite people and advertise it and form the committee.
Yeah, well, that's fine. Yeah, I guess I just assumed that this town would approach it the same way as Rockingham. So, yeah, I mean, I could certainly put a committee together and then it would just be, then just presenting the information to the select board. Yeah, okay.
I think you did the right thing, because if one of us were opposed to it, I would assume one of us would express our feelings. I personally, I'm not opposed to what you're doing. It's just coming back and saying, this is the committee. If you can't get 5 people in Westminster to go behind it, then I would say it wasn't a good idea, but you easily get 5 people that want to do it and come back to us and think it's really not a bad idea.
Yeah, okay. And I do think that this committee would need to work with the planning commission as well. Yeah, so that would just have to be worked out. So.
Paul, you're
Just a little bit of information for you. Back in 13 through 16, or somewhere in between there, this select board did investigate some of what you're talking about, not quite to the extent you brought tonight, and it was largely to do with this section of the road right through the village.
When the state of Vermont came in to do the repavement on Route 5, we asked if they would put a bicycle path, and they couldn't because the road wasn't wide enough.
Okay, yeah.
So it's not a new idea what you brought up,
Yeah,
because we all thought that bike riding in. One is we don't have a lot of tar roads, so then you're only dealing with the tar roads. And then the state of Route 5 going up through is when they did it, we said now is the time. We tried to get a crosswalk here too.
yeah.
We fought that
I
too.
remember,
And we tried to get them to move the road over, the line over, and have one lane to be wider to ride bikes. And we got shot down by the state of Vermont all the way around.
And they won't even let you have a sidewalk that the kids could use as a bike path. They won't put a sidewalk in either, like just a little bit in from the road?
We never, I don't think since I've been here, we ever investigated doing it. I know the Historic Society tried to do one, but it's in the historic, so they wouldn't, so they had to put it so far back, and they tried to get, well, Jim Martell's here, he might know a little more. They tried to get the people to kind of do it themselves. That's about the only time I've ever seen a sidewalk discussion.
That was too informal of an approach, frankly. And I was involved in that, and Bill Noyes at the time from the board was there and other things. And quite honestly, we could only blame ourselves for not having been as organized as you are in starting it off the right way. But the other thing was that the state was clear that one of the reasons they didn't want to support sidewalks was the cost, because the way they do it, I'm not criticizing it, I'm just saying, acknowledging that the way they do it, it frequently costs about as much as a travel lane for a car. And then they were not going to maintain it in any fashion. So that's why so many towns, like Brattleboro, has special plows for their sidewalks. The state isn't going to touch it.
Right, so it adds an expense for the town.
That's an expense, yeah, and a difficulty. So there was a lot of that, not quite seeing eye to eye on that stuff with the state agency.
Yeah.
We did hear, just to add one more, and I'm not saying for or against, just by saying it, but there were a number of townspeople who spoke out quite loudly about inviting more bikes onto the narrow roads and as they are now.
Yeah, it's too bad. I mean, yeah, a
We
lot of people
just
do.
addressed it on 121 because of the bridge. So Rockingham Group that you're talking about came to us and asked us while we're doing it, can we put a bike lane? And we got shot down by the state on that one too, on crossing, just to put the bridge itself, make the lane so when you cross the bridge, you move the line over so one lane would be wider, and they refused to let us do it.
Yeah,
So
cars rule.
All right. Anything else you need from us at this time?
No, I guess not, nope. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Yeah,
coming.
so I'll keep you posted.
All right.
Thank you.
And if anyone wants to join the committee, actually, you know, I didn't bring my contact info, so I guess,
you're welcome to call, have Kelly put it on the page. I don't know
Yeah,
how many
that's
years
that's,
ago.
that would be great.
It'll
Thank
be
you.
on our homepage.
Okay, yeah, because I wasn't prepared.
There'll
for
be
that.
like an
Put it together
invitation
myself.
to join a committee.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
Very good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Still under communications, public comments, Paul Guido.
For folks that don't know me, my name is Paul Guido. I live on Harvard Hill Road, and I'm here to discuss the ongoing issues with the Northbrook Road. I've been up to my current residence for 35 years, so I guess I know what mud season's all about by now. And everybody recognizes that this year's was pretty significant for most of the towns in southern Vermont. But my issue is the ongoing condition of the Morris Brook Road. I understand that mud season, this one was exceptionally hard for many of the Vermont towns, but the overall poor condition of the road has been a chronic one. I'm not talking about just this last couple of weeks. The issues in my mind are twofold: poor drainage and the non-existent base of the road itself. The road currently has no crown, which is, by everything I've read, 20-foot wide span should have a 5 to 7 inch crown in the middle of the road to allow for drainage. The bulk of the road material is like fines. It's almost like pond silt. And when it rains, it becomes slick and pretty hazardous. I mean, I've seen a road, kid on a road grader come through and a day later it rains, and I've had my truck barely go off the road a couple of times because of it. There's a high volume of traffic east-west in this town. I challenged the select board to take a traffic count on that road, and you'd be amazed at how many vehicles use the Morrisbrook Road to go from east to west in this town. So that kind of increases the need for the repairs. During this last couple of weeks, there was no possibility of an emergency vehicle, a fire engine or ambulance getting to anybody up there in an emergency situation. Road in general is hard on vehicles. I know that there's been several vehicles that had to get towed out of there, and I know that there's been several that were damaged because of the conditions last couple of weeks. The bottom line is, for me, for the property taxes that the town receives from the residents along the Morrisbrook Road, I think we deserve all the money we've got. Addressing the problem needs to become a priority for the town, whether it's budgetary or however. Even if repairs are scheduled for a section of the road at a time, if it's the money issue or whatever, something has to happen, because this has been ongoing forever since I've been up here. So that's the bottom line. I guess I'm asking you guys to make a priority out of doing something with it. We know that the same spots every year get, I called the town manager a couple weeks ago when this first went down and asked for some gravel or something to be put down. I barely made it home in 4-wheel drive, my pickup. And I was told, well, gravel's not gonna do it, we need to put stone down. Well, we don't have any stone. Well, then we need to buy some, the only long-term fix that I've ever seen work on the road was down toward the far end by, I can't think of the name, Flagship Place down that area down there, where the road was dug up, there was stone was put down, landscape fabric was put on top and then recovered with that. But right now, it's like pond silt, is all I can say. There's nothing to it, there's no base to it. And everything that I've read is about drainage when you're dealing with mud. So, That's my 2 cents worth. I just think for the taxes and so forth, anything the town receives from people along that road, there's a lot of homes up there now, and there's a lot of issues with people. I've known several of my neighbors that have had ambulance calls in the last year or so. It needs to be fixed. It needs to be repaired. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
And I agree with them.
Anybody else under communications and public comment at this time? Alex?
I'll be real quick. Yeah, so
Sure.
we got this set up for you guys. I'm Alex from Falls Area Community Television. No charge. This is equipment that the town had purchased so that you guys can have your hybrid meetings. So yeah, I think this is a great opportunity. You have 2 owls. In addition to that, you got carrying cases. So I'm just letting you guys know. You know, you can always use the owls or hand it off to other committees or places that need to do meetings or need to do a hybrid meeting. I think that was the intention of Rush. He's gone now, so just trying to highlight to the town, you know, why the equipment was purchased. And you also, you have Josh. So we're not going to like manage the hybrid meetings anymore, but I did recommend Josh. He can, if the town wants to have someone set up the meetings for you, you guys can work with Josh directly. So it's more of a direct relationship and sort of get your needs taken care of. And then Fact TV is always available. That's just what we do. We're for anyone in the town or any of you board members or whoever the interim manager is going to be or whoever the new manager is going to be in the future, they can always give us a call. We can help consult with them or train them or, you know, help them utilize the, you know, the equipment that you guys purchased to use. So that's always available. That's free of charge. That's what we offer, you know, to towns and municipalities. Yeah, also, see, this equipment was purchased for a bigger space that got moved for some reason, and you have 3 TVs, so you have an extra TV and a stand. Okay. You can decide whether or not you want to sell it, or there might be another facility in town that could use a TV, you know, for training sessions or whatever. I mean, I don't think you guys need 3 TVs in this space, but
I think I'd agree with that.
It was, I just consulted with them and there was another organization. It was based on a space that was over at the Institute. That was an idea, so.
That probably was.
So that was conducive to that. But so you call us anytime if you need help, and then you guys have Josh's contact information. If you know, he'll definitely help out set up the meetings or whatever you need for that. So that's it. That's all I need to say.
Thank you for all you've done, man.
Oh yeah, not a problem. Yeah.
Can you do me a favor when you stand?
Yeah.
Walk back out and stand there.
Oh yeah, don't follow me. Yeah.
No, okay,
Yeah.
keep going. See, there's another screen that comes on. I'm trying to find a place
That's
that
enough.
you can stand with, because for a few minutes you stood and I could see you.
Yeah.
Like if we ask somebody to stand to talk.
So it's all automated. I think moving forward, the only suggestion I would make, so we have the mics are closer here. So if you want a public comment, this is what they do in Rockingham and other meetings. Put like a little table or desk for someone to sit closer to this mic. So anyone that comes up and makes public comment, they sit down and then everyone can be heard. But
Makes sense.
this is the first time, so you can make those adjustments and you can give me a call and Josh will always be able to, you know, you hit him up and he'll be able to make those adjustments for you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. Take care.
Mr. Chair, I just want to go back to Paul's comments. I would recommend that at least we review this with Highway, with Chuck and everybody, and at least get a written response to Paul within 30 days as to his concerns and grievances.
Appreciate it.
You, sir? Maybe the select board would go on a tour with Chuck too, to kind of look at it, maybe a 1 or 2 at a time. So the select board is a little more up to date on what the problem is and where we could start.
Agreed.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul.
Sorry,
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I was just curious, was it particularly Northbrook this year, or was it like all dirt roads?
It's everywhere, all roads.
Really?
It's like the whole state.
It's the worst we've ever had. Every town, but I will say, since I've been here, I would say Morrisbrook Road is right up there as one of the worst ones.
Really?
It's just-
It gets a lot more traffic than it was designed for.
That's what I was wondering, yeah.
And that's what, he brought up a good point. He brought up a good point, if you at least started on the end where all the cars come in, because they normally come in to the end of the access road more than going out the other direction.
Mhm.
And that's where we could meet with Chuck and say, okay, if we're gonna do it, let's start here and work that way, so, whatever.
Right. Moving on to unfinished business, Hartley Hill Road update, if any. The only update I have on that is I did talk to Larry, and he has an updated deed from Fletcher that, with Russ's resignation, that took precedent over going over the deed, so he still has not gone over that yet, so that's the only update I have on that.
So our plan now is still wait for Larry to get back to us.
At this point, yeah.
What was the issue with
Hartley Hill?
Yeah.
The private section,
Oh, yeah, okay.
there is some interest in taking that over as a town road. So both parties' lawyers are working on it, and
Okay. I guess I've heard a little bit about it.
yep. B, financial report, Chip.
All right. So in the board packets, and maybe the public does have them as well, are 4 different reports that I generated. I'll see if I can get somewhere here in front of the camera. The first one I wanted you to look at the top, reads Westminster General Ledger, trial balance, ARPA. It's 1 page of 1. You can find that. This is the trial balance for specifically just ARPA funds. The top number, which is underlined, $406,533.69, is the remaining balance of the ARPA fund money you have received and not yet spent. Below that, where it says fund balance 0, that would be fund balance from prior years. You only got that money this year, so there is no fund balance forward from prior years. The revenue stream in, $443,925.67. Distinctly, I want to recognize a line that says ARPA revenue village. That was from the village that turned over to the town. My understanding is that there was going to be an attempt to understand how that specific set of funds was going to be used separately from the town's direct ARPA funds. And then to date, expenditures, $37,391.98. 3 of 4 purchases have been made. The 4th purchase has not been completed yet, and that is land records work for the clerk's office. You authorized it, it has begun, but it has not been completed nor billed to you yet. All right? More specifically, I remember that the ARPA committee wanted to have numbers. And so besides the ARPA committee having the numbers, the public has the numbers.
Thank you.
Any questions on that from anybody on the ARPA before we move on?
Yeah, for a comment, Jim Matto, I'm also village president, and the village was surprised to find out we were getting this money. In fact, Russ called us and said, hey, guess what? 2 or 3 years ago, we started talking about officially disbanding the village business, which probably as an entity, which could have been done years ago because it really has no existing function. All of a sudden, we were the dog that caught a car, and here we are looking at $80,000. And we rather quickly decided that the best thing to do was to transfer that to the town, which the rules allowed. And so we did that. We made the town the recipient of that money, gave them the DUNS number to access it, and made the town manager the agent. And we recognized at the time that when you transfer the money, you're transferring the decision making. And our intent was to make recommendations if we had any regarding the village. But it's not like the town's not gonna spend money in the village, so we weren't super concerned about it. And Nancy was part of that group, I don't know if you wanted to add to that, but that's pretty much, so you know how that came about. We were more surprised than anybody by that. Don't often get that kind of surprise.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
And so as he noted, they appointed Russ, who is also your appointment for ARPA. You have filing deadline requirement by April 30th. Someone needs to be appointed to oversee that and take over the village. If the village decides to dissolve, please do it sometime after January.
We understand that. We don't, it'd be midstream if we were to do it now, and we couldn't move that fast anyway.
Yeah. So therefore, the second installment, which will be coming in July, will get here. So basically, your money's gonna double. All right.
Do you need, before you leave tonight, do you need us as a select board to appoint somebody to take Russ's point so you have it by April?
I don't need it, you need it, yes. Because right now, as far as I know, the only authorized agent is Russ to log in and do that reporting. And that the ARPA committee knows and is gonna talk about, declare it all as unkept revenue, if you will, unreceived revenue, section 6.2, and then lay out the plan of what you intend to do with funds that you haven't already spent. So that's going to be talked about during the ARPA section. But yes, your appointment right now and the village's appointment is both a person who's no longer here. So the board will need to assign that. Typically, I would assign it to an interim manager, or you may assign it to your interim finance and administration, not fiance, to get them in, logged in, and authorized to do the reporting for you. Okay? And yes, if you're meeting again this month, after that point, they could get their credentials. I would suggest you do it tonight, so that they have time to get their credentials and submit.
April 30th is the deadline.
Is the deadline
To file.
to file.
Right.
Your next meeting is in 2 weeks, which is,
And if we don't file properly, my understanding is we lose.
you
I don't think
can't,
we're against, we're just trying, I'm looking at Ally because what he's saying is asking her to be appointed to take Russ's place to sign for the ARPA
As the town's agent.
as a town agent, right?
yes, someone from the town appointed by the select board.
So my
I would not
understanding-
recommend me because I
She's
am a
not from the
contractor.
And she's not from the town.
It's just a matter of you entering the module
Yeah.
and checking off some blocks.
She's the hired gun you have.
So she could do it?
She could do it.
This is what we spent.
I can't do it because I'm not a resident?
But-
No. You're a hired gun,
Right.
you know, up to 25 hours a week.
okay.
I'll make a motion that as a select board, we appoint Ally Bigelow to take the.
Bigelow.
Big one.
He did that my very first day.
I like
it.
Yeah. It's
She
cool,
thinks you're teeth.
yeah.
Did you finish it?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
didn't finish the motion, no.
To take the place of Russ as, what was it, the ARPA?
Designated ARPA representative, I guess is how I would call
For
it,
both the town
and
and,
the village.
do we have the authority to do it for the village?
Granted to you when they gave you the money.
Okay,
We made it the town manager, and now you're faced with changing that, so.
second that, I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion to appoint Ally Bigwood to be the town's official signer for ARPA funds.
And reporter.
What's that?
And reporter.
And reporter.
We'll go over it, it's easy.
She's in days.
So it's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Good.
My condolences.
We're just starting.
Yeah.
So next Tuesday, we will make a plan to get you connected, logged in, and do the reporting. Next set of documents would read Westminster General Ledger Comparative Budget Report, page 1 of 7. Okay, the purpose of this report, which represents the expenditures that were intended to be represented in the last town report in preparation for town meeting April 30th, in which the totals should be on, I believe, page 17 of the town report. And in balancing between the town report and what was in the general ledger in the computer and what was in a spreadsheet, all three had different values. So when I split out the highway fund from the general fund and was trying to look at 21's budget, separating highway and their actuals, 22's budget, separating highway and their year-to-date actuals, and then next year's budget, it kept not being able to match. And the determination was that the spreadsheet held by the manager was the document that was right. So it's in the town report is wrong. This is what I feel you want to have available at your town meeting as presentation of what should replace. I think it's pages 13 through 17 maybe. And to recognize the last column, the last page, specifically the total, $2,500,665,000 is your total budget of expenditures being presented to the public.
Could you repeat that one more time?
$2,500,565.
So it's off by $100.
Depends which one you were looking at. If you're looking, are you on the town report,
Yeah,
page
I'm looking at the
17?
town report.
Page 17?
Yep,
Last column on the right?
Yep.
Proposed budget
yep.
for expenditures.
It matches this one, but you're saying it's off by 100.
If that one says a number other than what I just read, then it's off. And it wouldn't surprise me. So what I determined is what got in the town report was a spreadsheet in which the formulas didn't actually add the numbers correctly, and therefore the total didn't add correctly. And so I was trying to match something that was never going to match. And the spreadsheet that I actually was working with didn't subtotal properly either. So that's what I would say, this is what should be on the table for the public to look at relative to the pages that appear in the town report for expenditures as budgeted. This also breaks out highway separately from general fund. So I want to take you to find the page where the general fund ends. Bottom of page 5. Total general fund. Total expenditures for the general fund, $1,132,090. That's a number heretofore never presented as a unique number separate from highway. And when you go again back to page 7, you'll see a total for highway above there, which is $1,368,575. So again, the purpose was February 23rd to break out the highway from general. This presentation presents the expenditures broken out, highway and general. Your article is actually a combined article, as Larry had talked about at the last meeting that I attended. Okay? So the point of this was really to show what the town report showed, would show it broken out by fund, with a total that has now been proven to be the number you need. Okay? Any questions, concerns at this point? Again, the whole purpose of that is.
$2,556.
Yep,
$565.
565.
565, as opposed to what we have on our article, 2,500,665. Thank you.
But on this sheet, which we don't have on this sheet, which is, it's broken out, which is be the first time we can discuss that if they ask us. It is interesting that Chuck spends more than half their town money.
It is not unusual. One of the biggest things that has heretofore never been called probably highway expense is in the payroll benefit sections, in which Social Security, like the Medicare, health insurance has always been combined. And yet the majority of those with those benefits are in the highway. Second to that is general liability insurance, which by far is highway. All the equipment, general liability. So that's what was done in this comparative. 21, though it's already been audited, has been broken apart and shown and reclassified with budgets and actuals that appear as if they were broken apart before. 22 is now broken out, though you don't see the actuals here. They're a different document that I've got for you. But you'll see how those budgets compare to then the next budget you're presenting, 23. All right?
Thank you, that's really nice.
Did you also break out the revenue?
By golly, you're right there. The next page is, again, comparative budget report, page 1 of 2. This is the same information that I believe ends on page 10, which was budgeted revenues in the town report. You found it yet, Kevin? Comparative budget, general fund, right?
Yep.
Page 1 of 2. So like we just did for the expenditures, you see revenues for the general fund, which has many more categories. Ends about halfway down page 2. And when you look at the revenues for 23 that are proposed, $1,132,090 matches the expenditures. Hey, that's what it should do. And then in 4 lines for the highway for income. 1,368,575. Unbelievable.
Chuck won't have an excuse no more. I'm sick of him whining. This is it.
I don't
Good
think that
job.
restricts his whining. So, again, the town report has possibly in the article, it says how much to be raised by taxes. I don't know if your article says that. So in the revenue stream, you'll see at the very first line for property tax to be raised in the general fund anticipates $772,710 for just general government. And for highway, he's sitting $1,141,075.
Will that still be one motion?
Yes.
Right, still one motion.
That's the way you warned it,
Right.
yes,
Okay.
the way you warned it.
You would just normally we just say how much, but in this case, we'd say two different line items.
You can add the two together as the amount to be raised by taxes. Doesn't matter, the discussion can get to the detail.
Okay.
Yep. You know, if you warned the article with X as a total with Y to be raised, present it that way, that's what it is. And then from there, you can break down and alter the numbers, change it, explain each side of your activity. But this is one of the things Craig had brought up. We have no comparison, we didn't want to change. So we have changed, and we have now 3 budgets, one of them with actuals on paper. And you can begin to see the trend, at least for budgeting purposes, of 21, 22, and proposed 23, which was what I stated I would provide to you in this conversion. All right?
Yep.
Yeah, I'll have you getting hot too, right? No concerns about that. All right. The next one. This reads current year, period 10, budget status report, page 1 of 10. Okay, so this is all of the revenues and all of the expenditures year to date for highway, general, and the contingency fund of $150,000, which your auditors claim is general fund money. So I presented that, I believe, on the 23rd when we talked about the article, and we said how much is available in fund balance, and we talked about the 100,000 from working capital, the 150 from contingency going to FEMA, and then the, I think, 100 grand that was being used to reduce taxes, which left you with like 271 left, based upon your article of how much shall we put towards FEMA. So that is why I included that fund as the last items in this report, to show that in fact the 150 did get used. The line reads transferred to general fund. The reality is it was transferred to the FEMA fund. Okay? First thing that Craig noticed, in delinquent property taxes collected, $342,386.82. The story behind that. Taxes were due March 15th?
February 10th.
February 10th. So everything collected after February 10th has been treated as delinquent taxes paid. Though by budget, they're really in the top line, because that's where you anticipated collecting them. So that was a function of someone doing a process in tax administration called closing the tax year. And that says, okay, if the year's closed, it's now delinquent. Well, it's delinquent by practice of delinquency. It's not delinquent by budget. So I have not done an analysis to move all those payments back up to that top line. But in the end, revenue is revenue between those two lines. Whether it's collected current or collected delinquent, it's still revenue on an accrued cash basis. Or modified cash is what they keep saying. So that's piece number one. I don't believe page 2, the bottom line on the top group, year-end surplus, has a budget of $100,000 and an actual of 0. And that's intentional. The budgets match, but in fact, you can't collect that which you already have, surplus. So that actual says if everything works perfectly, the general fund will be in debt $100,000, actual revenue to actual expenditures. I plan on losing money. That's what that 100,000 budget shows. And I can congratulate you, you have. Unrelated to your intention. Yeah, there's not anything else really outstanding till you get to page 3. And riddle me this, Batman. Page 3, the first group, Executive Department Salaries and Wages, Salary Town Manager, is at 122.91% of budget. This is the reason I actually am giving you a period 10 report and not an end of the quarter March. You intentionally did a severe payout against the salary expense lines. And you need to know where you are now, not where you were at the end of last month. That is why I gave you period 10 to date. Period 10 is not over. We have payroll and AP next week. This is as of 4/7. And as of 4/7, we had processed the last payout for the former manager. So as you go forward, you have 2.5 months of additional payments. So now Ally, who was not employed before, you still have NIMRIC services going on. And at some point, you'll have an interim manager to be paid. And those are all expenses that will come out of this Fund 101 general fund. Fortunately for Chuck, they're not out of his fund. Now he can smile. Down from that, there's a line that reads contracted services in the second group, next to last line, where 9,800 was budgeted and 21,086 has been spent to date. I'm going to make a huge presumption that is probably NIMRIC.
You are going to be 100% correct.
And it may not be all NIMRIC, but the majority of it is.
98%.
Not 100. Then, yeah, there's really not a whole lot else that is, you know, roughing you up.
Where does that money from finance training end up going? That's is that part of the 21, or is that's not, well, the 7,000?
If it's a separate line,
The separate line that hasn't been spent.
then, yeah, it hasn't been spent, hasn't been referenced.
That's what I'm trying to say. That the 7,500 that we put for finance training, that was originally intended for NIMRIC.
Yeah.
But
And it hasn't been, that line has not been referenced in invoicing, meaning a choice was made where to charge, and they didn't choose that line.
that's
Okay.
okay.
But that line will be hit pretty soon with all the training you have to do with the new people. So,
Again, if they've been using the line above it, professional services, may not get hit. You know, coding where anything is paid out of was a function either of the manager or Kelly, then approved by the manager and then signed off by the board with the warrants. So continuing down, there's nothing huge of outstanding note. Bottom of page 4 where it says zoning administrator wage. Bottom of page 4. Next to last line where it reads $18,010 as a budget, 285.43 spent. That is 19%, I believe was the number, of Russ's salary had been being charged to zoning. And I see on the agenda interim zoning, so again, another body, and a budget that's been abused already.
Is clerical salary under that same zoning? Is that Kelly, I would assume?
Yes, that would be part of Kelly's. There's additional lines, my understanding, page 5, down under police, salaries and wages. The animal control officer has never been paid. Animal control travel's never been expensed. Sheriff's Department, next one down. The contracted service is for X number of hours. Those hours have not been provided, I believe, the last 2 months, maybe through June. You're not going to pay anything more, from my understanding. You won't start paying again until next year. So that is an area of which I believe that line has maxed what you're going to be charged. And those hours are still due to you that you've not gotten service for, that I understand.
Could you go back up
Yeah.
to municipality buildings maintenance? We budgeted 20,000, we spent 5. Is there some more money, more bills we see coming on that?
I don't know. I don't know that there are. I don't know that there isn't. My inclination is that what was planned for building maintenance has been done, unless the doors down here, the big 2 doors, main doors coming in.
No, I think the last one was Cole Streeter doing the stairway, right? I think.
Yeah.
So,
And if Cole Streeter is the one who's, in charge of doing all the work, then is there anything unbilled yet? I don't know.
On page 4 of 10,
4 of 10.
under zoning administrator wage, 22,285.43, is that part of the 84,000 noted as the manager, or is that?
It is not.
In addition to?
In addition to.
Okay.
In addition to, yes. The numbers, I think, were 81% manager, 19% zoning, is how his salary had been split.
But to be clear for everyone here, you are including the termination value in
Yes.
that number.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the additional cost, everyone needs to understand, including the termination value of the former manager. Correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's exactly why I gave you
No,
period 10. Yes.
this, you know what, Chip, I gotta tell you, this is the best thing I've seen. Yeah,
This is very good.
commendable, thank you.
Well, you paid for it.
I get it, but for the first time, it's incredibly clear.
So, and that is a function not only of understanding how to do accounting, but then how to report it.
Right,
And that is what you need.
right.
That is what you need. The actual trial balance and all the funds, you did not yet. It is not what you need. You need an ARPA, you need the bridge, you need what you need for town report and where you are right now. That's all I gave you. So, when I get down to it, it appears that I really want to hit the bottom line of the general fund. So let's go to page 7. Folks, I don't want this to scare you. Year to date, bottom line total general fund. You're in debt, actual revenue to actual expenditures, irregardless of your budget. $141,616.22. On a good note, you anticipated being 100,000 short anyway. On a bad note, you have 2.5 months left. So as Kevin suggested, your payout impacted this. Because even if it was, 36, 38,000 less, you still are beyond the 100,000 you anticipated. Okay?
and there's no other surprise revenue coming in.
The general fund pretty much has what it's going to get, other than more delinquent taxes. Yeah. You know, if we could have a rush on sale of homes and the clerk could just bring in all of that extra clerk revenue at $5 a page.
Come on, people, come pay your taxes.
Yes, that would be ideal.
That would help.
That would help.
That would be the only number I'd like to see. We could come back next time and correct that to see what is it? Is that three?
What was it?
Yeah, what is the actual?
Yeah.
Because we do gain money every time I've been on that board.
Yeah.
Collecting delinquent taxes. It's
Yes.
always more than what we budget by quite
Yes.
a bit.
Yes. And typically, and I would treat this again, because you run on that modified cash basis and you have a number at the end of the given year, you can anticipate collecting some of that. But how much of that do you anticipate collecting?
When my first,
And you are guessing
yeah,
for '23
but we were so
without even
far
starting the
off.
fiscal year yet.
We were so far off every year, we got criticized for it.
Yep.
Because we used to be zero, because you said you can't anticipate it. But when you were
You can.
200 to 250,000 coming in, you're going like, that's where the extra money comes from. So,
Yep.
yeah, if we could go back and say, okay, we did 80, but my gut feeling is we got more than 80 already. Just-
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
If we could find that number, that would be really encouraging.
So if I determine what that number is and make the adjusting journal entry, would you like to see a report via email of just the property tax revenue change?
I would,
Yeah.
All right.
Great. That number is the number that always is too high almost, and they come back and criticize us every year.
Well, the year that you vote on it at town meeting to collect in an ensuing year starting July 1st, and 100% of the money comes in before June 30th, and every taxpayer the following year pays on time, then you're shy what you budgeted, but it's in your fund balance, because you already collected it. Okay. Page 8. Where do I get page 8? So,
Tim.
page 8, this is the start of highway. First thing to notice on property taxes, again, I split the budget for property taxes for the current year based upon what the budget's split out for, leaving the 100,000 use of fund balance in the general fund. Not putting any of that 100,000 use of fund balance in the highway fund. I made the highway fund whole. So much like educational taxes,
Excuse me.
the highway fund will be made whole before the general fund gets any property tax revenue. The delinquency is bore by general government, general fund. And for you on a cash basis, this process should be adjusted probably once a quarter, and if not directly after the due date of taxes, as a practice.
Makes sense.
The next line down, state aid to highways, 162 with 138 collected. In a couple days, April 15th, you'll get the balance of your state aid, which is 1/3 of the 138. So the highway fund, in fact, does have more money coming in. State aid to highways. The reimbursement for fuel from the fire department. You anticipated 2,500, you've gotten 4,187.07. And I'm sure that they're still filling the trucks. So there'll be a little bit more coming in there.
That will go to highways also?
Yeah, that's highway revenue, because I'm sure the diesel doesn't come
I
here.
buy it. Yeah, right.
You buy it.
Yep.
Right? Again, the things that were added to highway budget and removed from general fund budget in your first group of wages and benefits, all the items that are in 102, 5300, 1501, 2, and 3. And, you know, adding those up quickly, it's like $145,000 which distinctly is highway cost, which has just been called payroll benefits in the past. And now in the general fund, less than half of what was in the general fund budgeted got taken away and put over here. And these are the types of things that take the highway budget, in which people say, generally what we spend in highways. They tend to miss that type of stuff because it's not in the 5300 series. It wasn't, right? And so that's why the highway budget actually goes up quite a bit, because of those three items. As well, in highway 5348, which is down underneath road maintenance and above town garage. 102, 5300, 4800.
Insurance.
Insurance, $38,000 in the current year attributable to highway. This is VLCT, passive insurance, workers' comp insurance, the litany of VLCT products, which heretofore were just one lump sum total in general government, which I broke out. And then for 21, did the journal entry to move it. For 22, did the journal entry to move it. For VLCT, you've already paid for the year because you pay in 6-month increments. So this first half for the calendar year, which the insurance actually covers calendars, and you've already paid for the 6 months. So that number is where it's going to be. And then at the bottom of page 9, you have a transfer to FEMA storm, $100,000, unbudgeted. The term working capital was used. And because FEMA is a function primarily of the highway department, my belief is that the highway fund is what's going to transfer that $100,000 from surplus, if you will, working capital. And that when FEMA is done, which we discussed, I think, on the 23rd, I'm anticipating $500,000 because you're going to be reimbursed for things that were your own highway guys' time and talents and equipment, which were paid for and borne out of this fund, the highway fund. That whatever that FEMA produces that ends up being surplus is coming back to this fund. Not back to general government, but back to highway for highway use. Meaning in the future, you may be able to reduce the amount of taxes to be raised for highway by highway's own surplus portion thereof. All right? So the nice thing is at the bottom of page 9, where it says total highway, has a nice positive number of $136,114.72 left to spend. Wages, materials, and all other tricks of the trade, plus whatever comes in state aid the next 2 days, you have available to spend.
Right.
If all you consider is actuals. Okay? The bad news is the general fund was already short 141,000. This one's positive 136,000. So they almost cancel each other to say, if we stop right now, we're about that even. But we're not done. But this does clearly give you where you stand, general government versus highway operations. The last page, 10 of 10. This is the one that'll scare you. This was the contingency reserve, which the auditors recognize as being money held on behalf and by the voters for a contingency. It is part of, I think, an article that passed in 2008, if I'm not mistaken, in which the voters said we should hold 150,000 in contingency and 100,000 as working capital. And if we ever use it, we'll replace it when we can. It's my understanding of what that motion was. And the board did vote to use the contingency to transfer to the FEMA fund. So this fund had no revenue. It started with 150,000 in reserve, and the board voted to transfer that. Though that reads transfer to the general fund, it actually is a transfer into the FEMA fund. So that fund lost $150,000. And it was the contingency fund, standing alone by itself, holding money the voters put aside for need. And then the last line on page 10, total all funds in the current year. That means all revenues less all expenditures. You know, 155,501.50 in the hole. That does include the contingency, does include the 100,000 you transferred over to FEMA from highway, does include that you budgeted 100,000 to use of surplus for taxes. So, hell, all in all, I think we're doing good. But this year, you are going to report in your actual revenues to actual expenditures a deficit. No question about it. So when you get to town meeting and there's that one article that says, shall we take $250,000 and put it towards the FEMA fund? Of my opinion, that number should be 0. Because I believe your surplus may end up being used up by actions through 22. Getting to June 30th, you will end up using a good portion of the 271,000 that we had named of that fund balance will end up being used. Because you're going to be paying for more bodies, more time, more training. And heaven help you if it rains again like July 29th. Though the road should hold better this time.
Right.
So that is the not so short nutshell of your current year. Funds broken out, including activities you're familiar with transfers into your FEMA accounts, the use of your fund balance, the biggest thing, the payout of the former manager reflected in your reporting. So that as you go forward, know already that you are running a deficit. Already, in total, across all funds. So Chuck, congratulations, you have lots of money, you can't spend any.
Right.
All right?
Very thorough, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, should you run across questions, pass them either through Ally or through Kelly, and they can email me. My next time to be back in the office is next Tuesday, when the next accounts payable and payroll run will take place to do the online banking, because at this moment in time, I'm the only one with a token and able to process online banking.
Did you want to speak to the bridge?
Oh, did I skip that one? Damn.
I think so,
Yes, I must have.
at least real quick anyway.
Yes. And maybe I have it and I just didn't pull it out. I'm sure.
101.
101, the bridge fund. There is a top number on that report. As I'm hunting for it.
174,716.
Yeah.
This is the bridge in 121
Yep.
that came in over budget.
No,
This is just a fund.
this is your reserve for bridge rehabilitation, I think might be the name of it.
Yeah, but we were
Okay.
heading towards the Gageville Bridge.
Yep, so at the last meeting I was at, there was discussion of the state's bids came in $1 million higher than you all expected. And so the former manager expressed that instead of it being, 63,000, which I believe is in next year's budget to transfer in to the highway fund, meant to go out for bridge rehabilitation, the same amount of money, that your share is going to exceed $100,000 plus. The reason for that page is to indicate to you, you have that amount of cash ready to match that bridge project, as long as it doesn't exceed that amount of money. You do have that, I believe, in your next year budget, a transfer into the bridge fund for even more, and into the equipment fund for more, and into retreatment for more. But you had talked about that bridge and wanted you to know that your share already exists. So it's not something you gotta run to the voters and ask for. As long as you continue to fund those reserves as projects come up, your match should be there. As well, once you declare through 6.2 of the ARPA funds, then it is conceivable you could use ARPA funds as your match to that bridge and keep your bridge funds. Those are options that open up to you once you declare the lost revenue. So you have, if you will, that ability to handle that, knowing you don't need local resources, you have to claim as local share. And you've already spent, I think that report shows you've already spent a little over $4,000 out of that fund, which was already happening for that bridge. Engineering services. More than likely the state's engineering services. All right?
That's good news.
It's always been there. All right, if you are done and don't have any further questions,
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I'm going home.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
any questions? Kelly or Ally, they can email me.
Thank you.
All right?
Thank you,
Yeah.
Chip.
All right, have a good night.
All right. Moving on, new business, unfinished business, town meeting discussion.
We got one more meeting.
Yeah, let's do it then.
Do we want to
We'll
table
table that,
that
yeah.
for now? All right. D, appointment of interim treasurer process. Do we want to go through any of that tonight, or?
I think we should table that as well.
All right. E, conflict of interest policy.
That also.
We can table that.
Moving right along.
Chart of compatible offices discussion. We can table that.
Yep.
List of appointments. We need to appoint people to vacancies left by the former manager. One being emergency management, which, emergency management, which we did have Ben Mashur from the highway department has the credentials to be able to do that and is willing to do that.
So now we need a motion on that.
You're asking the wrong guy, I don't know. If we
Yeah, you do, because it's a appointed position, so you need a motion, but I'm not sure what the motion is for what.
The motion would be to appoint Ben Mashur as an emergency management coordinator.
So move.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded to have Ben Mashur be emergency management coordinator. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? You guys have it, and I have signed that paperwork. Do I give that back to you? Okay. Other list of appointments.
You don't have a list here, do you?
I don't have it.
Sorry.
Okay.
Is there anything that can't wait till next week? Or next week?
I think it's, no, I don't.
So we're looking at just what Russ has for positions right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the, Kevin's gonna do Wyndham solid waste.
Yeah, I'll be there tomorrow.
We can. You wanna hold off on any more of these for right now?
Yeah, I think the key one is zoning.
For sure.
A lot of solution relatively quickly.
For sure. all right, so that takes care of that. That has to be filed by the 30th, so that alleviates that.
Is there any way to approve permits that come up without?
Not
no
currently,
interim type?
unless somebody's the administrator. I talked to Larry and he said, you can't do it unless, you meaning me, I can't, we can't do it unless someone is an actual zoning administrator, meaning appointed or hired or however you want to do it.
So do we have a bunch of,
Right now, we're at a bit of a standstill with that. Do we what?
do we have a bunch of permits waiting to be
I've-
approved?
I've fielded at least 3 calls and they're a little frustrated and I get it. I totally understand it. We're in the season and we want to get stuff done. My hands are a little tied. I don't really know what to do with.
Who are they giving it to? So they're calling you?
They've just called, hey, I've got this in the process and now the ball's been dropped where I can't really move forward on it. I don't know. And some of it's just a signature.
What are the credentials for a position like that?
None.
There's not a lot, but there is a lot of training.
A lot of training.
Right.
We've hired NEMRAC sometimes come in to teach. And we actually have somebody who comes in and enforces it and does, but the actual process, it's gotta be somebody who's trained.
The LCT has trainings, they have trainings usually in the spring and the fall, but they haven't released the date for their spring training.
The problem is you gotta know our zone.
So if NEMRAC offers training, do they offer the service as an interim service so that we're not held up without permit being signed?
Yeah, I believe so. I was gonna mention that, we should talk. Ask them, because what's the gentleman who's coming in doing the class right now? Who comes in, Ally, you know, who comes in that helps out with the zoning?
From NEMRAC?
Not zoning.
Not zoning.
It's
Assessing English.
Assessment.
Assessor, yes, that's assessing. I don't know, I thought, Al Kuma retired. He did.
Yeah, it was Al.
I can't remember. Travis maybe is his name. I'm not sure.
Why don't we, scramble to find out how we do that, because you're right. That is,
Position?
huh?
So, full-time position?
No.
No.
We can appoint somebody, and the LCT will provide individual training. I don't know how much it costs for individual training if we don't want to wait for a class.
The question would be if we're gonna train somebody, have somebody off the development review board, because they're the ones that are imposing the zoning anyways. So they would be the ones that are most knowledgeable of the rules and regulations in Westminster. So when somebody calls, and right now, they would call and get Russ would say, oh, you don't qualify, so now you need to go over to the development review board to get it. So at least somebody that's in that field would have some background to know what Westminster zoning rules are.
Chris, thank you for being here. I don't, just to want to clear, because you've been fantastic all these years. I just want to make sure, I'm like, because he's recommending that. Have you ever had a zoning administrator on the DRB board, or is that a conflict?
Never had one.
It would be a conflict, right?
I would assume so.
I would think so.
Yeah. The LCT has a little format that says what's
Right.
proper to cross over and what's not proper. I don't have it with me right now, but I assume that's on there, so.
But we could boot you off the development review board to make you a zoning administrator. We have no
Oh, I
problem.
don't want to be paying more day jobs.
Got enough.
Yeah,
I'll volunteer a little bit, but I don't.
yeah.
Just seems like, given what you said, like the time of the year.
I totally feel for people when they
Yeah.
call. I just don't know which way to turn with it, you know?
Any of
There
our
is a
past
tremendous
zoning
amount of
administrators
knowledge
are
involved with that.
Yeah.
volunteer.
Historic district.
Even if you had the experience, you really gotta know Westminster's rules. I mean, that's the whole issue. Just like you said, I'm not even sure what we did, even though I've been here long enough to know probably I was half responsible for the rules. But in the historic section, it's totally really hard. It really is.
I have a suggestion, and I hope he doesn't come find me tonight or another night afterwards, but what about Phil Savoy as an interim? I mean, I can't think of anybody else that might know that stuff better than he does as a stopgap. And so you find out an answer from the LCT and then eventually find a replacement, if he's even willing.
Worst we can do is
How
ask them.
fast can you run?
Yeah, the answer
What's
from
that?
the
How
LCT
fast
is we're
can
on.
you
the-
run?
I already messaged him and told him. He's waiting outside.
You can't hang me, you can tell him I suggested it, so.
Somebody on the board's gonna call VLCT and find out.
I've already done
Katrina's
that.
already done a lot of the legwork on that.
We're on our own.
They don't offer,
I didn't think so.
as far as zoning. They don't have much to offer.
Would it
But
make
the
sense?
person doesn't have to be from Westminster.
No.
It doesn't have to be, we can hire it out.
And I've already talked with the regional commission, the Windsor, Regional Commission, to see if they know of anybody who's either retired and able to help us, or working for multiple towns that has time to come and help us, and nobody's got anything.
Isn't that Jim Martell
We
retired?
did a whole lot of nothing.
Key word was retired.
Chuck, you had something?
I was just thinking, would it make sense if we could find somebody else, even if they weren't going to do it, if we're gonna train somebody, train two people? So if this ever happens again, you got somebody that can at least jump in for a week or two.
Or vacation or
Whatever the case is,
The
but if we're gonna pay to train somebody, I feel like all these positions should have two people that could do them if you had to.
Especially one that can stall such dramatic projects, like people throwing $100,000 around.
Yeah, if you want to build a
Don't
house
want to
right
hear
now,
their
you're.
permits getting held up.
Yeah.
Chris, what about
Yes.
Don?
What's that?
What about Don? He's retired.
All retired.
I don't know, I don't wanna get myself in naming some. Paul already did that,
Well, we
No,
certainly
I just came
know,
to find out what was gonna happen.
we certainly know we're in a pickle and we gotta figure it out pretty quick. That's actually, I think, more important than the manager search at this point. I mean,
Yeah, you don't, people
We
could get
can at
really
least put
nasty
something
if
so
you
that
don't
they're
get
not
their
calling.
permit approved, because 'tis the season.
oh, yeah, there's a window. You gotta get.
Well,
it
and
done.
if you've scheduled out a contractor for the week and then your permits aren't getting approved, then that contractor's losing work. So then they're going and filling it in another town,
Well, I
so
think
it
we're all in
definitely,
agreement on everything we're saying here. It's just
there's
a matter
trickle
of
down,
somebody being able to actually step in there and
yeah.
on it, do it.
Maybe Katrina already covered this, but another town, will they loan us? You know, can we,
Tried.
not, none of them.
They've been reading Bradbury, more
Well, the story is don't build them.
Give us a suggestion.
Yeah,
Do I
I mean,
have a suggestion?
Yes.
I thought Chris would be great, but
Thank you.
Don't you wanna be a zoner?
he doesn't want to do this.
Yeah, you want
Are you ready?
Would that,
Oh.
Yeah, but it's good news, we would relieve them of being on the development review board, see? We wouldn't hold them
He doesn't
responsible for both.
look, he's being kind right now, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
could that piggyback on the financial person's job so that it was a full-time position?
Man, you are bleeding.
She's the fiance, what isn't she doing?
all right.
Ally, we need a juggler
Okay,
too.
so I would be willing to be one of two people trained for that position.
You would be.
So when we called NEMREC, they would tell you that you have to do that, we just need to find one other person to do it.
I think it's a great idea to have two people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a little lister background and I know a lot of people in town, so hopefully people won't yell at me too badly, but I'd be willing to help.
Well, shouldn't the assistant zoning person in here that gets paid, shouldn't that be one of them that might have a little bit of training?
Kelly, her hands are kind of tied. She does have the experience but she can't, I don't think she could step in and sign off.
What about Ruth?
Ruth used to do it, I thought.
She did.
Didn't she?
Yeah.
She used to be.
Well, actually, as long as I've been here, the town manager's always been mostly involved.
Right.
Well, actually, we had hired,
Oh, yeah.
we had 3 different hired
Yeah.
people for this position. So, Russ was just the first town manager since I've been doing it.
Correct.
There was other people that were hired outside.
Yeah, we had.
Right, we had Bill Jewell.
Bill
Jewell
Jewell.
did it
Before that, we had Larry Johnson.
Yes, Larry.
There we go.
Okay, so we have Allison.
Does
Ruth knows the rules
BTSC
and
do
the
the
town
training
and
as well?
Yeah.
inside out.
So do you train her and then appoint her, or do you appoint her and then do you train her?
In this case,
You
we're.
can appoint and then do training. Do that.
Yeah, you make the appointment and then she'll conclude the training.
So that's gonna have to increase her hours from 25 hours to whatever.
Which our committee will discuss,
to catch up on.
which I believe in the minutes is correctly stated as a finance person.
Not Beyonce?
No,
Jim,
She turned
Sorry
down her
about
proposal.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, I just want to suggest that, I know you said you've already talked to the Wyndham Regional Commission, I think. And I'm quite sure, like, I can't say this for a fact, but I'm quite sure that if you had an appointed and not fully trained person, they could be available on a as needed basis to advise and consult. I mean, I don't know any details of that, but I would certainly ask them if they could do that.
thanks, Jim.
You got 2 or 3 people there that are good at it.
I'll do it,
I know Chris pretty well.
I'll do it,
You're doing it?
yes.
I'll take it off my list then.
Yeah,
So-
so on your list.
So we're not gonna do anything with that tonight.
My list isn't that big.
You have
think we
to
appointed-
do a motion to appoint Ally.
I mean, I don't know what I'm doing.
Join the club.
I don't, honestly, I don't know,
Hi, I'm-
I don't know enough
I don't
about
know.
the story. I'd be willing to train. I
You know
would be
what?
willing to step up.
Would you be willing for us? I went to the website tonight and really being harsh or critical. We don't have a town manager and it doesn't even have the phone numbers for any of the select board. So if somebody's got a complaint, it really should have our name right at the beginning with our phone number if they got a complaint. But I was just thinking that due to the fact we don't have a zoning, we could put a phone number, so when that would be your phone number or Kelly's, so that at least they would
I
know
don't
where
have
to
a
go.
phone in my office.
Right.
Well, you have to go to Kelly's.
Yeah, go to Kelly, but at least, because right now they're trying to call the town manager to get it.
Well, that's.
It goes to
But
Kelly.
it goes to
It goes to
Kelly.
Kelly anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it goes to Kelly anyway.
I only fielded calls from people that knew me.
Right.
That's why they called, they had my number. They didn't, I don't think they sought it out anywhere.
But I just think, I wouldn't mind, if somebody wants to call and complain, since we don't have a town manager, we're all gonna help out a little bit.
So
When you go to the webpage right now, it just, at first, it's so outdated, it still has Sue Harlow, and there's no phone numbers.
No, I agree.
You know, that ought to at least have the new people with the phone.
Maybe behind you.
Well,
Don't you
thank you,
have
Paul.
to appoint Ally to get her trained?
Well, we're not, she's, yes, but the other hand, if we voted her tonight, she would actually start to sign anything. She says she's not comfortable doing that.
Would you point her upon the completion of training?
Plus, do you really want people to be calling her? Do you want to say she was appointed and then do you want her to have
Good
to
point.
field calls? And
Good point.
I mean, I would think you'd want to take these kind of calls that Jason's
No,
taking and.
that's what I mean, I'm willing, if you wanna train me, and yes, I will help, but
So we're gonna leave the meeting, we're gonna try to, as a select, try to get somebody in here to work with you at, whether they're the trainer or they're being trained in with you included.
right.
Is it worth advertising?
Yeah,
I mean, we gotta,
It's free through VLC
right,
for a month.
let's do it, yeah.
Do they come to me or do I
Advertising's
go
free
to
through
them?
VLCT.
what was that?
Does VLCT come to the town or do we go to them?
They only help us locate somebody.
Well, for training, they will come here. They will come here or you can go there. There's multiple options.
They, no, in our past, they would have to come here because they're really training you on Westminster's rules.
So I think for now, will you get in touch, you've already talked to VLCT,
Yeah, okay.
and figure out how to do
Training
the,
or advertising.
advertising.
Okay.
And Kevin's gonna get a hold of the union.
Right.
Do we know when BTLC's
They don't have a date for,
training? They don't have it yet. Okay.
so we'd be special.
So we'll call that the end of list of appointments at this moment.
While you're changing stuff on the website, can you also change take the number off there for the highway department for, burn permits? I get like 10 calls a week. I'm not,
I don't know how to do that, but we can.
well, somebody must. Well, I feel bad
You don't wanna
because
be my secretary?
they call on the weekends and things, looking for a burn permit while they're working in the yard.
I don't think one of those would be bad.
Well, because it's on the town's website, they call the highway department.
Say no more.
All right, moving on. New business, manager search, interim discussion. This is something that we could advertise as well through VLCT for free. Is that something that we would have any interest in pursuing through them, or are we?
I think we got specifically come to agreement that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We advertise for it. Is it just fill in to find a town manager, or is it one that, 'cause that's the first thing they're
Is
gonna
it an
ask?
interim or is it a manager?
Or is this gonna turn into a full-time one, and so?
So I've talked with them.
Yeah.
And they're already working on trying to find us an interim without advertising.
Correct. That's what we did last time. It worked out good, where they found somebody. That's different than, and I would kind of like to leave tonight to go with that one, and then it gives us time to get our act together on what we're gonna advertise for a town manager, even if it's one that turns into a permanent one.
Okay.
Because we're still working on the finance.
If they have our info, you talk to them, they know we're looking.
Correct.
Right, so everyone knows too, I know some people have left, okay, so we're clear. Last day of the town manager was yesterday. So we have a lot to unpack, a lot to unravel. Just want everyone to be clear about that. So it's gonna be looking like we're skating on one skate for a little while, but we really appreciate everyone's contribution, everyone helping. But this process did not begin literally until today, because contractually, the last day was the end of business yesterday. Okay? Just wanted to make sure it's on the record. Billy, thank you.
And just so they know, what we're looking for in a fast replacement for an intern would be somebody who was a retired town manager somewhere else, a VLCT could say, that's what happened to us 10 years ago when we all of a sudden needed somebody, and they found Sandra, which was just retiring from over in Wilmington, and she came over and worked here for 2 or 3 years. Was somebody with town experience in Vermont that could come in and just help us get through the period of time, so.
All right.
Okay.
I think we've covered zoning administrator search. See robocall discussion.
Not tonight.
Nothing.
I think we'll.
Can I ask what it is? What is it?
I just think that's very important, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I studied everything as far as like the meetings and things. And I guess the state of Vermont, their infinite wisdom, feels that you can have meetings with a 24-hour headway. I just think for clarity, it would be nice if people could be notified somehow about the meetings, just so that they would have an opportunity. It's difficult if they're not going to be videoed. It's sort of difficult to get the feeling of the room. The minutes are nice to have, but it's difficult, to understand what's going on for certain. And I just felt like this was probably like a pretty big thing. I mean, you had a mass exodus here, and then we have 2 meetings back to back with a 24-hour notice. And it's just my personal opinion that I think, for everybody involved, I think it's better. There's a lot of conversation going around, and I just think it'd be better if everybody was able to, if they want to come or to see it on video. So that's just that was one of the points that I was.
So we had brought this up at a previous meeting, I don't know, a while ago, month and a half, maybe.
More than that, well.
2 months. And the answer that I got out of the manager at the time was that
We tried it.
8 or 10 years ago, I don't know what it was. We tried it. We said he had the figures, the numbers. But he couldn't get information from people. He couldn't get people to give them their information to be able to put it out there.
I think he said the cost was like $2,000.
It wasn't that expensive, really.
But I'm for it too, because I think that any road closures could go out, robocall.
Oh, totally. I don't disagree.
Any trash, whatever.
What we tried to do, to go back to memory, we tried it once and we couldn't get it done. Then we tried it because the school was doing it, was going very well back in COVID-19. And for some reason, we weren't allowed to use it because we were thinking, hey, we could share it, right? Why not use the same people that you wanted to, use the same service, use the same contract, and share it with the schools? And I don't remember, but I know we got shot down where we weren't allowed to do it.
I think Chuck talked to the school recently, just in the last.
But I know we couldn't do it. It was something we wanted to do and they wouldn't.
I think we should get our own.
So you can't use the school because it's a specialized program.
Right.
But students also get their grades through that same program. It's not open to the public like that. I have been looking into it, working on it. June's right, it's not very expensive. It would take some serious light work. You're gonna have to get everybody in town's phone number. You're gonna have to send out a mass mailing like you would with property taxes or something and ask that they get a hold of the town. It's not gonna be easy, but it's certainly doable.
Well, everybody that wants to, if they don't want to give us their information, then they don't get the service of the robocall.
That is
If people don't
correct.
contact.
I'm not saying they're not gonna call back. I'm saying somebody's gonna send the mailing out.
Correct, yeah.
That's
But
what
I
I'm
don't think,
saying.
as a select board, since I've been on here, we were ever against it, going back to what he's saying. We just needed somebody to come back to us and say, can you pay $2,570 to have Robo set up?
Oh,
I don't think as a select board, we would say no.
I'll have a proposal by next select board meeting.
Thank you.
Boy, it comes right out of that budget, we know you got the money.
Right?
Thank you, Chris. We're in agreement.
Right.
We just gotta figure out how to implement it and get the numbers and stuff in it.
Thank you.
So moving on, D, protocol for minute taking reporting, Robert's Rules of Order.
Where's that, sir?
We can definitely move that
I
on.
honestly don't remember what that was about. It's been on there a couple of times.
This is the new Robert's rules for the training of the new chair.
Well, we wanted to make sure that we had a
Probably.
complete index of where we left off with the last manager. That way we weren't missing anything. So some of this is going to be pushed off to later meetings. That's not priority. But the chair wanted this prioritized, at least that we had everything that we were discussing and everything that was in
Yep.
the hopper.
Yep.
Okay? That's why it's long.
Yeah, so E, WCEDC name change. I have paperwork somewhere. So that group is asking for approval on a name change. And I can't,
I don't think,
I think I actually have.
right here is the
This is
short, but where's the sheet, what's the name that they want?
They want,
Economic Development Committee,
yeah,
decreasing by a letter.
yeah,
Oh, is that what they're doing?
yeah.
Extra C.
When,
They're
yes.
taking out.
They want to go from WCECD to WEDC. I don't have any issues with it. So sorry.
Make a motion to approve the request by Cynthia Stoddard, Chair of the WEDC, dated March 28th, 2021, to amend the acronym and total name from Westminster Commerce and Economic and Community Development Committee, WCECD, to the Westminster Economic Development Committee, WEDC.
Seconded.
I think that date might be, a misprint, that March 28th, 2021, because it must have been 2022.
Oh,
I'm
I'm
just,
just, yep, good
don't you
point.
think, because
Yes,
that committee was just a new.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you,
So, motion's been moved and seconded
I'm sorry, who seconded it?
Us.
Katrina. Thank you.
to approve the name change. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. ARPA? Oh, sorry, new cemetery wall discussion, I think.
That was me.
Yeah, so I met there with Weed Concrete last, 2 days ago to get a price on the block. I do have that and I did not print it, I apologize. I think, if I remember correctly, it's around 51,000 in block.
For the new For the whole new stone wall?
from one end to the other, to the closest pole this way, to the north.
Yeah,
That's not installed, that's just a block price. I do have a call into Mason about doing it in stone, so we have some numbers. I'm not wedded, I mean, personally, I'm not wedded to anything. I just wanted to
it just
have
looks
some
horrible
decisions.
now, it just looks terrible.
Chuck's guys picked a lot of the stones up that had fallen over and secured the door,
Yeah, and the door
so.
being,
Somebody
Like
pulled
it
it, somebody pulled it open. It
Yeah.
wasn't-
that was,
Somebody tried to get it.
Vandalized.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping in the near future, I'll have at least some proposals and. if
I was
it's-
gonna bring in, I did contact them.
Okay.
It's, doesn't matter, it's a husband and wife, that they do a lot, they do specialized stone wall. They're out of Woodstock, they do all the towns around there, they do, I took a picture, sent it to them, they said that they would come down here and give us a price.
well, I know Torben Larson does
Yeah.
stone wall work stuff.
But the main thing is what they wanna be sure that once they do it, there's something behind it that's not gonna push it back out
Mhm.
again, so that's what they do, they just do stone
Yep.
walls for towns all over.
Yep.
But they said they would come down, and it's not their limits how far they go, but they would come down.
There's not 2 linear feet of that that's vertical.
Yeah.
That's all leaning the other direction, so it's only a matter of time, but
Yeah.
we still have some numbers and
See, they might come and say, this is not worth it, you fix it, you might as well do it that way.
there's no
What
big
year was
stones.
that wall built?
I have no idea.
Tom Scrocky built it,
80,
would have been in the eighties probably,
late 80s, 87?
yeah, somewhere around there.
So we're working on it anyway, and I agree with you that it does look not very good.
Just a quick thing with the cemeteries, I guess they appointed, or Russell called and said, they asked me if I would be the main sexton. So there's the Secretary of State has a little, oh, I don't know, it was sort of made into a book, but I was just wondering if you guys wanted to look that over, because there are actually a lot of rules that are sort of supposed to be followed that haven't been, and we're not any different here than all the other towns, but there's a lot of little things that need to be, I don't know if they need to be changed 100%, but there's things that, and like I said, this town's not any different than the other towns. A lot of them aren't doing what's in there, but
Yeah.
it's what's recommended by the Secretary of State. So, and it gives you the different VSA numbers and things to look at. And just, maybe we can get together at some point and talk about it after you've had a chance to look at it.
Sure.
Just so we know what should be.
That's where we're trying to get to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just thinking now might be the
No,
time. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
It'd be kind of nice, I've been here, I don't remember, have you come in and do kind of a review of where we are with the cemeteries? I know we dabbled with cleaning some stones, we've done this and that, but to actually, kind of a quick overview of where we are with
I think the ones in town are okay, but the Westminster West one definitely needs to be addressed. And
Okay, that's what I thought.
the building out there is pretty much fallen down, the shed. So.
Do you have anybody you're training? So do you have anybody you're training or anybody to fall back on?
Well, the book that you would look over talks about having a 3-person commission, so there'd be more than one person that would be overseeing the, you guys would have.
Well, right now, we don't have, is what I'm saying.
No.
Just you.
No, yeah. I'll try to hang in there for a few more years.
No, I'm just like with all.
I'm creating a very nice map of the section that I've done so far, so.
That's Chuck, you were right on, because the first time I said, Chris, you feeling okay?
All right,
You never know, yes.
ARPA deposit funds to municipal budget or not? Paul, did you want to speak to that, or?
I do, but I would like to ask Jim if he would share just briefly
Oh, yes, yeah.
what he learned from the webinar, because they will talk quite a bit about that.
Okay.
And then I can.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, I sat in on the webinar that VLCT did on April 5th. And I wrote up my notes, Kelly has them, in case you guys want them, I sent it to her, and to Paul.
That's what we got.
Oh, are they in the packet?
Yeah.
Okay, there I am, now I can't deny it anymore. So, and I want to say that VLCT and the person heading this program up for them is Katie Buckley, who used to live down here in Whitman County. She's in Burlington now, but really knows her stuff. And she was on the webinar with two other women who were providing financial information, and it was really solid. I encourage you to use them as much as you need to. As Chip said earlier, there's a report due April 30. That's for the period ending March 31st. And I think the numbers you need for that are probably in the sheet that Chip gave you, pretty sure. This rule change that's important here is that the Treasury, the US Treasury changed the reporting rule. I didn't bring with me, but it's about that thick. In January, they adopted a new rule, which became effective on April 4th. And it allows, as Chip was saying, moving all of the money that's unspent into the general fund. They call it a standard, it's in the memo somewhere.
Standard allowance.
Thank you, yeah, that was it. And that's an option you would take to do that, and you put in the, as I understand it, and Chip and Ally will be dealing with that website, so they'll find out for sure. That you put in how much you have in that unspent balance that you want to move into the general fund, or into the municipal funds, because doesn't necessarily have to be in the general fund. And generally how you propose to use it. But you've still got until the end of 2024 to obligate those funds, and 26 to spend them. So what I got from VLCT on that, and I would double check it before implementing anything, but don't be more specific than you need to be, because you've got time for things to change. There's a few other advantages to doing that. Well, first of all, it reduces the reporting requirements, because now you're not doing all these individual ARPA projects. The funds become, I don't know if it's a word or not, but defederalized, which is why Chip said earlier you could use them as matching funds for future projects. And that's the reason. It's once you move them into that budget, into that local budget, they're not federal funds anymore, they're local funds. And someone asked in the webinar, why on earth did they do that? And I guess it might be speculation from the people who work with Treasury and who provided training to the states. Is that they see other infrastructure money coming down the road, and towns, small towns especially, are going to have a hard time coming up with match. This makes it more possible to do that and accomplish some of the same goals. This opportunity to implement or take advantage of this new rule is a one-time and irrevocable change. And you have to do it by April 30th, the same deadline as the report, and then the window closes. And the other thing I really need to emphasize here is that I sat in on one webinar, which does not exactly give me a college degree in understanding Treasury rules. So I would encourage you to work with VLCT or with Wyndham Regional Commission to get some technical help with that. VLCT also emphasized in that webinar that they're working with all 11 regional planning commissions to help, so that they can reach out. They can't do it all with 2 people from Montpelier. So you could get a lot of information from them. There are 2 people I understand at Wyndham Regional who are primarily dealing with this. That's all I had. Those are the main bullet points I wanted to make sure I touched on.
Thank you. So he really has hit all the bullet points, and that's about all we have to know at this point. And our recommendation still is, as a committee, as we last met, for you to move it into the general fund, because what that does, in an oversimplified manner again, means we are adopting the 43-page rule and guidance that they put out initially, which doesn't handcuff us nearly as much as if we would adopt the 150-page rule that came out just recently. And as Jim mentioned, that they really said that to ultra simplify the understanding of that is that anything you spend money normally on as a town and budget for, you pretty much have an open door. You don't have to call them, you don't have to check with anybody to see, is it okay to spend it on this or that? You can submit it and it's gonna be okay. It's if you start coloring outside of those areas where they might have said to you, well, you should have gone to this other set of guidelines. So knowing that the town needs a whole lot of money, as we just heard tonight, and will need more money, the committee's preferences to this point have been to stay with infrastructure and continue to bolster the town so that whatever monies are spent are for the good of the whole town, for every individual in town to benefit by, and that no special interests or business or elites are served.
Jim?
Would we be able to use some of the ARPA money to fix the cemetery?
It's money that the town, my understanding, would normally budget, yes. It would
Yeah.
be-
I would check with VLCT because they know the details a lot more, but that's my understanding as well, that they said there are three things you cannot spend this money on under any circumstances: paying down debt, paying a settlement, or paying into a pension fund. Which I don't think you were gonna do, but those, there's hard and fast, those are no. It has to be, if you didn't adopt this rule, it would have to be pretty much either infrastructure or public assistance as defined in the ARPA legislation. If you do adopt this easier rule, as Paul was saying, it opens it up for you to use it on almost any traditional municipal expense.
There doesn't seem to be a downside.
No.
VLCT's point was exactly that. In their opinion, there's no downside. They strongly urged every town to do it. The rule allows a municipality to do that if the amount of money they're talking about is less than $10 million. And when you think about it, add up the number of municipalities in the United States, the Treasury Department did not want to be monitoring every one of those. And this will make that whole job a lot easier. And in fact, they said that even Burlington, which I guess received more than $10 million over the two allotments, also had a large revenue loss in those first 2 years, which they get to deduct, and that brings them back down under. So they said there's no reason for everyone to want to not do it, in their opinion. And there's also a recording of that webinar you can link to on their website, and it's not that long.
Is that something that you need a motion from us tonight to do that? Or just the reporting, which we...
Your instructions to Chip and Ally on how.
You were coming back to us in the next meeting with that.
Coming back to you with what?
With exact how we're gonna move. That's what I thought when you left.
So yes, we did previously, keeping in mind we're an advisory committee only, was the suggestion was to move money into the general fund with the idea that people could see, and Chip started that tonight.
Right.
He gave us the first tangible numbers that I've heard since I've become a member.
So we basically need a motion to move it, right?
Into
That would
the
be-
general fund.
Into the general fund?
You don't want to earmark it as a special.
Right. If you made a motion tonight, my understanding, not a lawyer either, but if you made a motion to move it into that standard allowance, I guess it was. Is that what
I know,
it was?
but my question was when Chip left, he said he'd come back the next meeting with that to do it. So I assume when he left, he was coming back next week with the exact motion.
He said Tuesday was his next day in the office. That was my assumption. Was that
That's his own payroll, but he's saying we have one more meeting, which would be, at that point, he said, I would suggest I'll come back to you and move that
But
money.
your next meeting is 2 weeks from tonight?
I thought that we could make the motion tonight and
You're all gonna
deal with it
have
on Tuesday.
Yeah, you're not gonna
Me
have
too,
time
that was
to-
my
yeah.
understanding.
Yeah, if you made a motion tonight to file the report, which they have to do anyway,
Right.
and make this budgetary change, then you'd be authorizing them to do it when they're ready. If you wait till your next meeting, you're only gonna have 10 days left before the window closes, and there are gonna be gajillions of people all over the country storming them with questions.
I just don't know why we didn't do it while he was here then, but in that case, the worst case is we find out we didn't do it right, so I'd rather, then we have time to come back.
You could undo it at the next meeting
Right.
if it was wrong.
So I'll
If
go
you
ahead and
wait
make a
till then,
motion that we move $406,533.69 to the general fund from the ARPA, budget line.
Seconded.
We have a motion moved and seconded to move ARPA funds, current ARPA funds, to the general fund.
And that includes the expenditures.
Yeah.
The issue.
Yeah, but let's get that one done, and I'm a little unsure about the village, because he's got the village as 40,000, is that not, that's,
They're
the
all
100, the
together.
406
It's all
is both,
together.
yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so I do have the right number.
So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it.
Not quite done. So I approached Millie at the last board
Oh, yeah.
meeting, and she said she'd be interested, but I told her I would not ask her again if she would until monies were in place. I talked with Chip last week, Thursday, I believe, whatever day he was in the office. He said, no problem, the money is most likely there. In fact, I think he said $200 and some odd dollars in a $2 million budget was very workable, but he needs direction from you all on where to take it from so that we could pay for it. Because I cannot get a volunteer. No one has taken. If you want to move on that tonight, then I would ask the assistant tomorrow to warn a meeting for the 19th, and we can have another meeting.
We can make the motion that we go ahead and authorize her to take the minutes, and we will contact Chip on where he wants to take it out of what line. Because I don't think we're capable, so I tell him what line item it's gotta come out of. I assume it's gonna come out of the executive.
If it goes into the general fund, could it not come right out of its own?
It's still gonna
It
be.
says it can't be used to pay administrative costs, right? We couldn't use the ARPA money.
Can't pay wages.
I know, it does fall under the budget.
No, no.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
I did say I would take minutes for a couple meetings until you found somebody. I felt, you don't have to pay me until you'll find someone, especially if they pay them. So you can.
We'll find the money, let's just do it.
Yes, let's do it.
Probably the bigger issue is that the money is finding somebody to do it.
Right.
Well, with money incentive, there'll be more people. Volunteering is a different story for a lot of people.
So we do not need a motion for that, then, at this time?
Yeah.
If she's willing to do it, we'll
I
find out.
guess I misunderstood, so I stand corrected.
Just,
Thank you.
we'll just reach out and ask Chip.
I'll do it a long time, but I'll do it for a bit.
I wanna know why he didn't go over the storm damage and the loan. That seems to be one of the biggest deficits of the year, right? That's our biggest loss. Yeah, we get the money.
I'll call the assistant tomorrow.
We are not gonna have an executive session, we're gonna meet for that tonight.
So,
Sorry, hold on. So we're good with that, or no? ARPA?
Yes, she said she'd do a few meetings and while we're looking.
Okay, you had a question on
I want to know what you're going to do with this executive session because it's on the agenda, that's all. You're just gonna.
Cancel it.
You've decided
Yeah.
to cancel it.
Yes.
Okay.
And we
Great.
need to add Cold Springs Corner bid
Okay,
to that.
yep, that's, okay,
The bids came in, Chuck and I opened them. We have a low bid, maybe he can speak to it just as easy as I can, but we went over the bid with FEMA, since it's a FEMA deal. Chuck has an agreement, a contract with them, or with the contractor. We've talked to him several times, he's comfortable with that number. So in order to get it done, I guess we need to approve the bid.
Someone needs to make a motion that we award that contract, whatever the amount is, to, I assume it's whatever it is.
Now we're struggling.
You can read it.
I'll make a motion that we approve the bid of, that's the number, I thought it was higher than that, 88,400? Correct. Oh, that's even lower than I thought it was. That we award the bid for that culvert replacement to total of no more than $88,400 to Adams Trucking and Excavating.
Seconded.
Motion been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Guys have it.
Yeah.
Boards, committees, and commissions, anybody have anything? on
You're not
that?
gonna do your liquor licenses?
We're gonna get there.
We gotta figure out the authorizing.
I wanna know where the funds are.
What?
The planning commission has a grant that they need an authorizing.
Make sure
agent.
that.
And that would have previously been Russ.
Then all we do is make a motion that we authorize Jason Perry to sign on behalf of the organization.
That's okay.
I believe so, as long as the select board, that's how Russ became what he is, so.
Okay. Do you wanna be authorizing agent?
As long as it's somebody that we are select board nominate, so let's just make it Jason for right now, you'll sign it?
Yeah, sure. So it's been, do we need a motion for that?
Yes.
Yes. Make a motion that Jason is the authorizing agent. I don't know what the grant is. Does it matter?
His authorization on behalf of the select board for the.
Planning commission?
For the planning commission.
On behalf of the select board group, a grant, you don't want to put that in there?
To sign on behalf of the select board
To sign,
as an agent, or as an agent. of the
are you
select
saying generally or just for this grant?
board. Just for that grant.
Well, there's another one though, the NRCS. Chuck, this NRCS one, this has been already changed? Russ was the administrator,
Yes,
that's been
Yes.
changed, we just need to sign
you
it.
need to sign it so I can send it in, and you approve
Okay,
that change.
we'll do that in just a second.
Can I go back just a
Yep,
minute? So
yep.
Craig made the motion. Did you make the motion for Jason to be the authorized signer on behalf of the select board for the WRC grant?
Correct.
Kevin, did you second it?
Yes.
Or did you make the motion? You
I
made the
started to make
I'm
the
sorry.
motion, but then we edited it.
Okay, so I just need to know what you want to make the motion or.
Put it on, she seconded it, okay?
Okay.
I just, yeah, Craig, and, okay,
We just need to vote now.
Right.
This,
yep. And then
this doesn't go so much.
the NRCS is, no, we don't have to do that.
We do
Well,
not.
we're under this vote, we didn't say, Jason, that you. all
We
those
gotta
in
vote
favor.
for Jason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All abstain?
Yeah.
All those
What is
opposed?
the next one, is the one, it's just for us to approve as a select board, right, Chuck?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
You can just read it now.
We'll let Miller catch up, because I was a little confused.
Okay,
Right, that was a lot.
NRCS, yeah, go ahead.
So we have another grant. This was an NRCS grant for Piggery Road. That the previous manager was the administrator of. Chuck has had NRCS change the paperwork to now have myself be the contact, the administrator. Right,
Jason is a contact,
yep, and Chuck is the project director.
and Chuck is the project director. Okay,
And this, we just need to sign as a board to approve that change. Do we need a motion for that?
If we're gonna sign something, we probably should.
Yep.
Make a motion that we go ahead and authorize to sign the, whatever that what is it?
NRCS.
NRCS contract, put it that way.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Sorry.
I'm really
Sorry,
sorry.
No.
You're signing it, so the select board signing the contract?
Correct.
Okay,
We're signing the updated recipient administrative contract.
updated recipient, there's nothing about this in the packet, that's why I'm asking.
No, this was
Updated recipient, I'm sorry.
administrative
Okay,
contact.
okay. Thank you.
So we have a motion that's been made and seconded.
And it was Kevin?
I seconded, yeah.
Yep, thank you.
You're welcome.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'll abstain from this as well, since I am the contact. All those opposed? Ayes have it. So that was this one
Thank you.
too. And other business, we do have some liquor licenses. You want to do these?
No.
You just gotta, all you gotta do is make a motion for each one. 1, 2, 3. They're easy. Or Kevin, you want to do it?
I'll do it.
It just can't be me. Just can't be Kevin.
Are these your licenses?
Sure. I think one of them might pretty close to last name, so
Tell you.
even though I have a hard time already.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to, at this time, make a motion to accept the 2022 liquor license renewal application. Second class license to sell malt and Vinous beverages. 9244001 SEN. Applicant Paul Harlow, Daniel and Thomas Partnership, license 92441. This is for doing business as The Last Stand at 6365 Route 5, Westminster, Vermont.
Oh, you made a motion, I'll second. Yeah, I can do that one. Excuse me, motion has been made. And seconded? Yep, I second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 So that's a 3-2, right? Craig, you didn't vote, right?
I did on that one.
Yeah, no, this had nothing to do with
Oh,
that.
okay, sorry.
This was the Harlow, Paul, Daniel, and Thomas
And Thomas,
Partnership.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, now entertaining 2022 liquor license renewal application for the applicant Allen Brothers, Inc., 591001 SECN, 001. Doing business as Allen Brothers, Inc., 6023 US Route 5, Westminster, Vermont, 05158, license 591-1.
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I should vote no to my brother calls me tonight, but I'll abstain. One abstention. All those opposed? Passes. That was for Allen Brothers?
Allen Brothers, Inc. And finally, motion, Mr. Chair, to accept 2022 liquor license renewal application 9822001 SECN 001. Applicant WSM LLC, doing business as Westminster Station Market, 5190 US Route 5, Westminster, Vermont, 05158. License number 9822-1.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
One abstention. Those opposed? Guys, have it. Any other business at this time? Seeing none, date of the next meeting, April 27th, 2022, 6:30.
April 27th?
April 27th, yep.
Yeah.
I would take in a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Move and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?